Hi friends, it's Hannah Lang, your Director of Children's and Family Ministry at Holy Cross Lutheran Church and School, and I get to read another devotion from the Red Letter Challenge. So today we're reading day 14, and the red letter words of Jesus that we're studying come from the book of John, chapter 8, where Jesus says, "Let any one of you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone." So here's what our devotional writer begins off saying. To display the shocking nature of grace, we're going to take a look back at a story from John 8. You'll need to read the Bible story now to better understand the context of our devotion. So here's the story from John chapter 8. They all went home, but Jesus went to the Mount of Olives. At dawn, he appeared again in the temple courts where all the people gathered around him, and he sat down to teach them. The teachers of the law and the Pharisees brought up a woman caught in adultery. That's a sin for breaking God's law. They made her stand in front of the whole group, and they said to Jesus, "Teacher, this woman was caught in the act of adultery. In the law, Moses commanded us to stone such a woman. Now what do you say?" Stoning was a pretty bad punishment. They were trying to use this question as a trap for Jesus in order to accuse him. But Jesus bent down and he started to write something on the ground with his finger in the dirt. They kept on questioning him, and he straightened up and he said to them, "Let any one of you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her." Then again he stooped down and wrote on the ground. At this, those who heard began to go away, one at a time, the older ones first, until only Jesus was left, with the woman standing there. Then Jesus straightened up and asked her, "Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you?" "No one, sir," she said. "Then neither do I condemn you," Jesus declared. The Pharisees had spent months hatching up the perfect plan to try to trap Jesus. This was the moment they were waiting for. "Jesus," they said, "the law tells us this woman has to be punished. What do you say?" This is a tough question. They've caught him in a contradiction in front of his disciples. You see, if Jesus answered, "Yes, stone her," that seems to go against everything else he'd been teaching. But if he says, "No, don't stone her," then it would seem like he's relaxing his morals and that he didn't believe the law that was given to Moses. But don't worry, God can handle tough questions. Those cunning hypocrites were overmatched. Now before Jesus answers, he bends down and doodles in the dirt a little more with his finger. So they kept on questioning him, and finally Jesus responds to their questions. "Let any of you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her." And silence comes over the whole crowd. Somehow Jesus got his way out of that situation. He goes back to doodling on the ground before all the people start leaving. Now, we don't really know what Jesus was writing on the ground in the dirt, but some scholars have debated it. Some people think that he was writing down a Bible verse, and I'm sure he knew quite a few of them, right? Others think that Jesus might have been writing down some of the commandments. And other people think he maybe was writing down the names of the people that were in the crowd, holding stones in the circle, and maybe even writing down their sins to let them know that he knew of their sin. It says the older ones left the circle first. Why? Is that because their list of sins was the longest? In a sense, Jesus was saying, "All right, you want to talk about dirt? Let's talk about dirt. I know some stuff about you." The reality is there's only one person who is without sin, and that's Jesus. What's he going to do in this situation? Sometimes people have the impression that God is out to get us or he's angry with us. Christians have been known to agree with this way of thinking. In fact, if I were to look at Christian billboards that you see on the side of the road and different signs, you might think that God hates someone who sins or God hates someone like me. I wouldn't want to come to church or approach him or talk to him if he would really want to just punish someone like me. I wouldn't want to come to church or the roof might cave in on me after all that I've done wrong. But that's not who our God is. Our God is love. In fact, Jesus says in John 3:17, He did not come to condemn the world, but to save the world. Jesus could have picked up a rock and thrown it at that woman, and he would have been justified according to the law from Moses. But in this story, Jesus' eyes aren't focused on finding the rock. His eyes are filled with mercy and love for this woman. Jesus didn't begin by accusing her, and he's not going to start by accusing you. It's the devil who accuses us. He will throw his rocks at you and remind you of what you've done and left undone. The problem is that many of us spend much more time listening to the accusations of the devil than listening to the truth of the gospel. The only one who had a rock to throw, Jesus, he didn't even pick one up. Instead, he got down in the dirt for this woman, and he gets down in the dirt for you too. He forgives my sins and yours. He wiped my past clean. He's clothed me with righteousness, and by his stripes I am healed, and you are too. God isn't afraid of your past. He's not afraid of where you've been or who you've hung out with. God loves you for who you are. He'll take you as you are. Some of you think that you might be too dirty for God. When Jesus Christ died on the cross, he died for every single sin of every single man and woman who has ever lived and who ever will live. You are forgiven. And as forgiven people, we try to copy Jesus, to emulate Jesus. If Jesus dropped his rock for us, we need to drop our rocks for others as well. We are here to save others, not just condemn them. So drop your rock for others and for yourself. Can you forgive others? What about forgiving yourself? Are you still holding on to things that you've done? If you think your sin is too great for God to forgive, you're actually stripping away the power of the cross. Jesus came to seek and save those who are lost. That includes all of us. So here is our challenge for the day, for day 14. This is the day to drop our rocks. And here in our workbook, we've got these pictures of the rocks right here. And the challenge says, most of us have certain sins that really bother us. What about you? What sins seem to bother you the most, or sins that you keep doing over and over, or sins that you have a hard time accepting God's forgiveness for? Write those sins on the rock on the next page. And if you don't have this workbook, you can just write them on your own piece of paper. And no matter what the sin might be, remember that God has forgiven you. He loves you. And Jesus died on the cross to take away that sin. All right, that's day 14. Come back again tomorrow for day 15 of the Red Letter Challenge.